hardcore boxing fans out there, how are you doing? Big Porky here, the voice of hardcore boxing, and I hope you've subscribed as well, or I'll be coming to pay you a visit.
Porky's Corner is proud to be sponsored by Spartan Site Solutions. They are specialists in civil engineering and demolition contracts for the construction industry. Interested parties should visit their website or contact Porky's Corner for a referral at porkycorner@mail.com.
You doing, pal? You all right?
All right, mate. Yeah, it must have been that other link.
Is that?
Yeah. We'll go straight in then.
Yeah, let's do it.
Judge Jordan, Benn, media. He said you don't need to go down the media path. You need to go down the seeing the board and UCAD path. But yeah, he's going for interview with him.
Well, first of all, let's call him the dishonourable Judge Jordan. In fact, I've just had a message from a good friend of mine. He's a football man. He's not a boxing man. And I was telling him a bit of background about what's gone on. And he's absolutely shocked by it. He says, are you sure? He says, I love Simon Jordan. I thought he's like a truth seeker. He's somebody who speaks the truth, can't be bought. And that's why everybody loves his opinions. And so I give him the background and he's like staggered by that. So for me, Russell, the first question, because all we ever hear about is how intelligent Simon Jordan is. And we think the same thing, don't we? We've said for quite a while now, you've championed him on your channel. This is a seriously bright man. He's been successful in the past. He's very good with his words. His language is very good. So the first question that I'd have for Simon Jordan then is, why has Conor Benn asked to meet with you? Why you? You are not a licensing authority. You're not somebody who can give Conor Benn a license or clear him to box or help with the appeal with the anti-doping panel. So why has Conor Benn, who doesn't really want much to do with you or your colleague Gareth A. Davis, why has he messaged you and why has he asked to meet with you? Now, that's the first thing that Simon Jordan should have asked himself.
Yeah, it's all a bit smelly, isn't it? Do you think?
I think it absolutely stinks. So we know the background. We've seen Conor Benn shove the microphone in Gareth A. Davis's face. He's been really outspoken against Talk Sport, Talk Radio. He's got nothing to say to those guys. He holds them in contempt. But yet, he's sought out the one man who's probably been his biggest critic in Simon Jordan. And it goes back to that thing. If I'm Simon Jordan, right, there's two things you do. So I'm Simon Jordan. I get a message from Conor Benn via Sam Jones. Do you want to meet up? The first thing I do is I say, why? Why does Conor Benn want to meet with me? What's the reason Conor Benn wants to meet with me? And the second thing is, if Simon Jordan's got the integrity that he keeps telling us he has to believe in his own mantra, which is, let's stop this trial by media. Let's stop this spat with social media. The only people you should be meeting with and going through this from the beginning all the way to the end is UCAD and the British Boxing Board of Control. And Simon Jordan, that's all he needed to respond to Conor Benn, was to literally just say, listen, let's stop this trial by media. You go and do what you're supposed to do. That's what you need to do. Because all Simon Jordan has done in the past, what is it now, 15, 16, 17, 18 months, all he has done is say, Conor Benn needs to go through the process. This can't be done on social media. He needs to go through the process. But then what Simon Jordan's done is, whether it's his ego, whether he's feeling he's not really getting the responses or the love that he was getting 3 to 4 to 5 months ago from boxing fans, because that's how fickle boxing is. He's thinking, can I get in the middle of this now? You know, what do you want to see me for? Is it the ego, or is Conor Benn caught in favours? I think he's shown really poor judgment meeting him. And I think he should have just referred him to the Boxing Board of Control and UCAD and says, that's what I encourage you to do. When it's all cleared up, we can talk about this afterwards. It's just a really unusual situation, but we know why he's met with Conor Benn, don't we?
Yeah, do you think if Conor Benn goes on TalkSport, he'll just play victim now and he'll go for public opinion?
Well, this is the point, Russell. So Simon Jordan was like, this needs to be dealt with. And I won't stop saying the same thing. I refuse to. Simon Jordan, all he said is, you need to talk to UCAD, you need to talk to the Board of Control. That's all he said. But now what he's saying, and now he's questioning on one of his more recent videos, saying, I'm not best mates with Conor Benn, etc., and giving this big speech. But what it hasn't repeated is the fact that straight away you got to go down this route. So we know why Conor Benn, look, Tyson Fury basically doesn't want anything to do with Jordan. He's basically said, you get no more interviews off me, pal. In spite of what Warren's tried to do to patch up the PR work and say, you know, you're not banned from the event, come from the event. Tyson Fury says, we don't want you here. Shane Fury says, we don't want you here. We don't want TalkSport here, but we don't want you here. So you've only really got, all right, there's a few of them, but there's two big noises in boxing, isn't there, in British boxing? Yeah. There's Queensberry and Warren, and there's Matchroom and Eddie, and that is it. So you've already got really damaged relationships with Matchroom because, you know, they've accused you of being pro-Warren and up Warren's backside and an advocate of Fury, etc., etc. And all of a sudden, you fall out with the people that you've really shown an allegiance to. You fall out with them. The big one, the number one name in British boxing, Fury, doesn't want anything to do with you, doesn't like you. Simple as that. All of a sudden, you're like, right, I'm in a difficult position now. I'm neither friend or foe with Matchroom. I'm neither friend or foe with Queensberry. And you get a lifeline. Eddie's been on. Eddie's just destroyed you twice. I know Simon Jordan saying things like, you know, afterwards, like, you know, people were saying Eddie beat me in the debate and I beat Eddie. You know, it's not about that really, is it? No, it was about that. You thought you were just going to have your way with Eddie Hearn, and twice he trounced you. So you've already been humbled. And then Tyson's giving you another smack in the mouth after Eddie Hearn gave you 2 jabs on TalkSport over the debates where you came across really, really badly. You came across as somebody who didn't understand boxing and how boxing worked. And you also brought it down to a personal level. You got personal with Eddie Hearn. And the minute you get personal, you lose the debate. And then, as I've said, you've had a big right hand from Tyson Fury who was like, go away. Suddenly, this truth seeker, this man who wants justice for the boxing fan, for the sports fan, is on a different side, is out of favour. And he's been thrown a lifeline by Conor Benn, and he's gone and met him. And he's come back since. Never mind, I'm not Conor Benn's mate. You've come back since. And before you even go into the details, which obviously you said, I'm not allowed to say the details, but before you even go into the things that were discussed during that meeting, he's saying, but he's a lovely lad. But I really like Conor Benn. But he's a wonderful lad, he's Conor Benn, you know, and he's really been through it. And all you're doing is building him up, building him up, building him up. And then Eddie Hearn comes out, and this is when it's Eddie 3, Simon Jordan 0. Eddie Hearn comes out a day or so after you'd revealed that situation with Conor Benn. And what did Eddie Hearn say about Simon Jordan? He said, Simon Jordan believes Conor Benn is innocent.
Yeah, it did.
They've mugged you off, mate. Simon, they've mugged you off. It's embarrassing. They've mugged you off. because you've done the job that they needed you to do. They can't have the way with the border control at the moment. They can't have the way with UCAD at the moment, but they've had their way with you 3 times, and he's royally mugged you off, pal.
Eddie's just playing with him like a cat with a ball of wool.
It's a mismatch. I mean, Eddie, when Eddie turned round, I mean, you could have predicted that, Russell. You knew the minute it went on and started tickling Conor Benn and saying what a lovely lad he was, and you know, he's amazing and he should get the Nobel Peace Prize and all this kind of stuff. The minute the dishonourable Judge Jordan went on and said that, Eddie Hearn must have been creasing. And you knew he couldn't wait to come on. We talked about this, didn't we? Eddie couldn't wait to go on and say, Simon Jordan, I believe, thinks Conor Benn is innocent. So all they needed to do was to get the biggest distractor of Conor Benn on side where the public are concerned. Because like Terry's always said, the public don't have, unlike you and I watching this stuff all the time and talking about it, the public don't have long attention spans. They've heard what we need to hear. Conor Benn sat with Simon Jordan. Simon Jordan saying how what a lovely lad he is and the things that the public don't know. Eddie Hearn gives that soundbite. I believe Simon Jordan thinks Conor Benn is innocent. That's done. It's done the amazing PR job that they wanted you to do. You're a mug, pal. Simon Jordan, you are a mug and you're stupid. And you've shown some poor judgment and you should have stepped away from it and held on to the very morals that you were displaying, which was it has to go through the proper channels, instead of saying it's likely he's going to use a platform such as this to come on and tell his side of the story. So you don't want him to use social media. You don't want him to use the media to tell his story. You say you got to go down the route of the British Boxing Board of Control unless it's your channel he goes on. And then it's all right, isn't it? You are a massive hypocrite, pal. A massive, massive hypocrite.
Yeah. It's a whodunit, isn't it?
He'll never get any credibility again, Russell. Eddie must just think, wow, Eddie has done you 3 times. He's just done you. It's over. Referee, stop contest.
Him out, hasn't he, Eddie?
Eddie's just destroyed him. He's just done him 3 times. Referee, stop contest. Count out. Throw in the towel. Whichever end you want to play out. He's done him.
Does that make Eddie 7-0 now? 5 by way of?
You can argue the case, can't you? It's certainly a brutal victory, isn't
Nice
it?
man strikes again.
You can't. One thing Eddie Hearn is good at is good behind the camera or in front of the camera. Is good with the gift of the gab, and he knows he's the master of how do I get people on side, how do I stroke people's ego, because you know and I know different things make different people tick, don't they? And put the spotlight on Simon Jordan, and all of a sudden he's now singing the praises of Conor Benn. And then he's like trying to retract from that today, saying, I've not said he's innocent. I haven't said that. I'm not Conor Benn's best mate. Well, I know Conor Benn asked you, but how many other meetings have you had with people who have failed doping tests?
I know. Hey, he's team crusher now, isn't he, Judge Jordan?
Oh, he's team crusher. He can't shake it off. He'll try and put a little bit of clear water between him and Conor Benn now. And he'll say, oh, I'm a journalist. That's what I do. I was asked to look into this. And I thought, if there's more evidence there, I can look into it. That's my job. I don't question my integrity. The one man who thinks you're an absolute bell end, Simon Jordan, is Conor Benn. Well, 2 men, Eddie Hearn as well. And you've just gone and run into them and you've listened to the story instead of doing what we all want to do, which is to see it go through the correct channels.
What was the dossier?
40 pages, 270 pages. It's just horrendous, isn't it? It's just horrendous. He's lost access to Tyson Fury, the biggest name in British boxing. Direct access.
What about Big Meech? Isn't he a big name no more?
Don't hear too much now, dear. And he's also thought that I can have access to Conor Benn if I play the game. And he's played the game. I mean, you know it was Eddie's idea, don't you, for him to meet with Conor Benn? No one will ever say that. Eddie Hearn will say, I didn't know anything about the meeting. You know, and I know, Russell. It was Eddie. It was Eddie's meeting.
Eddie's the daddy.
Eddie's the daddy. Eh? You're telling me Eddie didn't know about the meeting with Jordan and Ben?
Daddy
And
cool.
Sam Jones did.
In a Morris wig.
Eddie tells you all what to do. He tells Frank Smith what to do. He tells Sam Jones what to say. And now he's telling Jordan who to meet and when. Eddie's the daddy. Hail King Eddie. And you've let everybody down, mate. But most importantly, you've let yourself down.
Old Eddie. Old Sam Jones. Slurp, slurp. Yeah. Who's next in line for the Gad's affections?
Well, it's not you or I, in case you're getting nervous.
Yeah.
Definitely not you or I. Who's next for the Gad's affections?
Ebanie's been beat, hasn't she?
Well, Ebanie's, yeah, she's 37. She's knocking on a bit. She's put a bit of timber on from what we've seen recently. She's been beat, so she's probably yesterday's news. I think Sky Nicholson's too clean cut and too sensible and probably wouldn't flirt with the Gads. So I think Sky Nicholson's probably out. I don't know, because most of the female boxers are quite straight-laced, aren't they? And the professional. There's only been Bridges who's not really in that category.
Caroline Duvall, Joshua Boatsy, Ben Whittaker, Lauren Price. I'll be latching onto them soon, taking them back to the back cave.
There'll be somebody, won't there? Caroline Dubois is a lovely girl, but she's really quiet, isn't she? She's not. Probably not big views. I don't know. He still loves the Furies, doesn't he? He's still all over the Furies. He's the Gad. But it's interesting just to see when you talk about the dynamic. And I've seen, Spencer Oliver. I only saw a clip of it today you sent me. I've seen Spencer Oliver and the dishonourable Judge Jordan. I've seen them having a bit of a laugh and going into detail. But you wonder what those friendships are like now, really, don't you? Because let's be honest, Adam Cattrall, it was every man for themselves, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Frank pulled him in line, gave Adam Cattrall a slap. Nobody really stepped up and helped him out there. The Gad did the quickest, 100 meters possible for a man of his age.
In reverse.
And he had the reverse lights on, and that's what they're at. So I don't think this TalkSport group, I think this group will break up at some point and they'll say, oh, we need to freshen things up. We need to keep changing it. But one of those guys are going to go over the next 6 or so months. But they've just shown what a cesspit boxing is. What a cesspit.
I can smell, Julian. Hey.
It's awful, mate, isn't it? It's awful because I keep going back to what Andy said to me earlier, a mate of mine. He says, I really thought Jordan were a man of man of the people. But they've all got narratives, haven't they? I mean, do you think, Conor Benn said, I'm going back to this, but when Conor Benn met with Simon Jordan, according to Simon Jordan, who couldn't say too much, it's all going to come out, but he said a hell of a lot. He's talked about a hell of a lot to say he couldn't say anything. And he said, Conor Benn, the first question Conor Benn asked him was, do you think I'm a drugs cheat? And that was Simon Jordan's opportunity, wasn't it? To start going through all the red flags, starting off with, Dr. Umar and everybody else. And he didn't ask him any of those questions. He didn't ask him any direct, stinging questions because he's weak. He's weak and he's sold out. So if you're Spencer Oliver now and Adam Cattrall, on the surface, you'd be all nicey with your work colleagues. But this happens in business as well, and this happens in life, doesn't it? But there's a snake in the house, don't there? Or at least 2 snakes in the house. And you look at things differently. And during the quiet moments, Adam Cattrall, after Warren pulled him and had a pop of him, and you could see that Cattrall's face was really awkward, wasn't it? It was like pulling faces. He was looking really awkward. I don't like this situation. What do I say? How do I handle this? And if you're Adam Cattrall now, in spite of what he'll say to them or to everybody else, don't you, deep down, he's like, do you know what? I thought we were close. I thought those guys are my work colleagues, and you're supposed to defend your team and defend your work colleagues. And they sold him out. Jordan sold his public out. And this is where we're at. We're at this dirty, dirty mess.
Dad is sat on the fence.
Well, that's what the Gad likes. He likes to sit on the fence, doesn't he? He doesn't know which way he's gonna go. Because all the Gad cares about is access and his ego. You know, if you look at Gareth A. Davis and his history and as a journalist for some pretty noteworthy newspapers, why jump on the other side? Why jump on the public side where all you're doing is you're showing your face and you get to meet everybody? Because it's an ego thing, isn't it?
Yeah. What about the comments I was getting from the Ebanie fan club? Some at profile pictures, Julian. Oh my God, are they train spotters?
Listen, these Ebanie fans, right? Because we've had a bit of a vileness, haven't we, about the supporters of Ebanie Bridges. And I'm going to tell you something now, and I know you're watching. I know you Ebanie Bridges supporters are watching, and you think we went a bit harsh, but this is the truth, right? None of you have got girlfriends, or you're in unhappy relationships. And what you're doing is you're probably liking everything that Ebanie Bridges does on social media. And you've probably had at one point or another on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, you've probably had a reply from Ebanie or a little heart. She liked it. She's giving you a little heart. And in your little fantasy world, she's now your girlfriend. That's how it works with crackpots, mate. She's now your girlfriend, so you're going to defend her. So if the big bad bully, Russell Hartley, and his sidekicks, Kent, Julian, Rico, Terry, etc., if Jules is going to have a go at her and Russell's going to have a go at her, you're going to get vile, you're going to get nasty, and you're going to defend Ebanie Bridges because she's your girlfriend, because she once liked a comment you made on Instagram. Admit it, that's the truth.
That is the truth, man.
Padded sell time. You want padding up if you think she's good for boxing.
My God, some of the essays I've had in the email, essays.
Yeah, essays, but never mind the 8 fighters ranked above her when she first fought Hearn Courtney, now number 8 and 9. Never mind the 7 fighters ranked above them who would have deserved world title shots. But Ebanie's done brilliant. She's saleable. She's making money, and you're just jealous. And she's a right to earn money anyway she wants. And it's tragic. Honestly, I think if you are a big supporter of Ebanie Bridges, I don't think you're a supporter of boxing. That's my opinion. Of true boxing, of real dedicated boxers and fighters, men and women who work hard to achieve their dreams. I don't think you're fans. I think if you're happy to see someone post things like, my next fight, the Wayne's going to crash the internet. I mean, who does she think she is? I mean, who really does she think she is?
It's craziness, isn't it? Do you know that smell Racker smells? You know what it is? It's the burning rubber from the Gad's wheel spin in reverse.
Oh, yeah. Honestly. Mr. Backtrack. I mean, he's gone. I mean, I wonder if he still thinks Ebanie Bridges is the potentially Muhammad Ali of women's boxing. I mean, did that comment ever mean anything, by the way? So you've got somebody who was in Ali. It was generally by consensus voted the biggest sporting icon of all time. I remember all various, really high profile. I'm not talking about some little magazine, but really high profile sports networks and publications had him as the #1 icon of the century in all sports. So we've got Ebanie Bridges step forward, who got hammered by Hearn Courtney. I'd only ever beat journey women with pitiful records, couldn't box, couldn't fight, had a big pair of whatever, and she's potentially the Muhammad Ali of women's boxing. I mean, Ali was all things, and he wasn't always loved. Lots of people hated him, certainly during the time he was boxing. He was a great fighter, a great champion, and according to most people, a great man. And just to mention his name in the same breath there's someone at the time who was a 7 or 8 fight average fighter. And it's a disgrace, really. It's a disgrace, and he stepped away from that now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cringe, mate, isn't it? It's all about, well, we've said it 1,000 times, haven't we? It's all about access. It's just access, mate. It's all about access and ego and the pound note. The more access I get, the more views I get, the more recognition I get, the more bookings I get, the more cash I get. It's just that ego and cash, and that's how you can buy people. And Simon Jordan, I know he's lost a lot of money, but he might be, I'm guessing, he's still a very wealthy man, because they'll always want more money, they'll always want more fame, they'll always want more ego, and you can buy these people. And if you look at Tyson Fury, for example, you know, he always humoured Gareth A. Davis, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he just told him to shut up, didn't he? Just shut up, shut up. And it's like treating him like that, just like treating him like dirt. I'll use you when I want to use you, and I'll put you down when I don't want to play with you. But you'll always be loyal to me because you're like a little puppy. Like those Ebanie Bridges fans who once got a like on Instagram 12 years ago. You're like a little puppy.
Yeah. Benn Eubank, is it on or is it off?
I haven't heard the latest for a while now, because you and I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I do have a small niggling. I mean, it's not going to happen in February the 3rd. I'd be very surprised if it did. But we always have a small niggling doubt, don't we? That it's the pressure on the border control. And like we talked about a couple of nights ago, and I was going into detail about Tyson Fury's doping offences when he was looking at 4 years, and how basically they'd done the budgeting, they'd done the legal budgeting. And the border control are no different to anybody else, and UCAD are no different to anybody else. They only have a set amount of money put aside for legal matters. Yep, they have to turn money, they have to get paid, they have to make profit. And I don't know how deep the pockets are of UCAD, and I don't know how deep the pockets are with the British Boxing Board of Control. And the small, I believe that the board are going to hold firm on this, irrespective of what the anti-doping panel appeal is. I don't think it matters how that goes. I think there's more to this than we know about. I talked about the 2 tests recently, but I think there's a possibility, like UCAD have previously folded with the Tyson Fury case when they were asking for a 4-year ban, that they run out of money and they've got other things to deal with, not just Conor Benn. And there is every chance that they just cave in. For whatever reason, they just cave in. So I worry about that. I don't think he'll fight Chris Eubank Jr. on the 3rd of February. I think we didn't think they'd do the fighting last September, by the way, did we? But I think what's coming is you're going to get an announcement probably on Monday that he's got a US fight. I think it'll be somebody we've heard of, but somebody who's long in the tooth. It could be a Keith Thurman who's been happy in retirement, just like Chris Algieri was. It might be, I think it's unlikely to be Barrios, but it could be Barrios, and it might be Ugas who Barrios has just beat. It'd be one of those 3. I think that's what'll happen. And it's also just goes to show, so Chris Eubank, clearly, we found out who's in the driving seat now, haven't we? Because of obviously what's happened. Eubank Jr. is in the driving seat. It's funny how, having been knocked out by Liam Smith, he'd have probably had the begging ball out right now for Conor Benn and would have signed on the dotted line. But now he's had that big win. Conor's had no ban, but Conor's had the troubles he's had. Things have changed, haven't they? Things have changed very, very quickly. And I think Eubank Jr. is like, this is the number I want. And I think the reason Chris Eubank Jr. has asked for a big money and a big number that Eddie Hearn says he can't deliver, it's an impossible number. I think there's 2 reasons he's asked for that number. One, because I'm the A side and you're going to pay for what you did to me. You're going to fight me, you are going to pay through the nose for what you did to me last October. And I think the reason he's asked for a big money fight is if there are any recriminations with the Boxing Board of Control by fighting on a non-UK, non-British Boxing Board of Control license. I think Eubank's basically wanting insurance. I don't know what he's asked for. I think previously they were looking at 3.5 million each, and I bet Eubank Juniors asked for something like about 8 million. The maths don't add up. There's no real guarantee that it would sell out at Tottenham, in spite of what Eddie Hearn has said. And I think they've done the maths. A bit like Fury and Usyk in April in the UK. It was never going to do the numbers that the fighters wanted or what Fury wanted. But I think that's where Eubank Junior is coming from. He's in a luxury position. He can pick and choose what he does right now. But I think he's thought, I'm asking for a crazy amount of money. If there's sanctions from the Board of Control, it doesn't really impact me that much because I've had 8 million, 7, 8, 9, 10 million even, I don't know. And if I get beat, it's great retirement funding. And I think that's what he's done. He's asked for a big, big number. And I don't know, maybe the feeders they've put out, there's not as much favour, as much demand for this fight that they were first telling you.
Yeah, and maybe it's all too much headache with board and that for everybody.
That's what I'm saying, Russell. I think if you're Eubank, you're like, do you know what? I'll go a different route. I'll go a title route, or I'll do this, or I'll do that.
That fight's always there, isn't it? Down line, isn't it?
Oh, exactly. The fight is always there. So let's do it when you're fully licensed by the board, and we can do that. But it won't happen we've said this for weeks. We never thought it would happen in February, did we?
No.
And I don't think it's going to happen in February. I think Conor Benn's going to fight in the US, end of January, middle of February, whatever.
Do you think that Caldwell will be sacked then, or I'd say he will be?
Caldwell sacked from, you mean Ebanie Bridges?
Yeah, I'd say yes.
I don't know what he was doing with her. I feel for Dave. She can't box, she can't fight, but you try to teach her to box when she can't box. Just doesn't work like that. I mean, she really got well beat against an unfancied opponent, didn't she?
Yeah.
Someone who was number 10, someone who lost a couple of not great fighters, never scored a KO. She never stopped anybody in her life. And Ebanie Bridges probably won one of those 10 rounds, if that. So she got well beat. She's clearly has no defense whatsoever. And the fact that she kept moving to her right and then stepping off to her left, and as she was going clockwise off to her left, she kept walking onto an overhand right, time after time after time after time. So she's stupid. She's no learning. She can't adjust. She's got no ring IQ. She can't adapt mid-fight, having get caught with the same shot over and over and over again. As I said a couple of days ago, she couldn't hit a barn door from 2 paces. She had an open target in front of her, couldn't even land a jab. She wasn't even 1 inch off throwing some of those jabs early rounds. She was literally like 8 to 10 inches away from an opponent who wasn't even moving ahead. It was embarrassing. Dave, I don't know what you were doing with her. I think Dave's a good coach. I don't know what you were doing with her. I've got no idea. And this also it's always an interesting one for me with coaches, because coaches often overstate their role and their importance, and they think they can have a massive influence on a fighter's style. You can adjust, you can tweak, you can encourage, you can mentor. But when you try to get somebody to fight in a certain style that you like to teach, and clearly the characteristics and the dexterity and everything else of that fighter just can't do that, and you still try to do that going into a world title fight when you haven't boxed for 12 months, it's poor coaching. You get someone like Ebanie Bridges, you know what she does well. She's tough, she's game, she'll have a scrap, she'll get her head down and she'll throw those windmills and she'll throw those little shoe shine shots inside. And you just get her to dip and to dip and to dip and to press in and to just let her hands go and hope that she outworks her opponent. But to try and turn her into Sugar Ray Robinson, sticking out that left jab, it's cringeworthy. So, look, I know Dave, I get on fine with Dave, he won't like me for saying this, but if that's the sum total of what he's been working on with her, and the Ebony Bridges opponent has only been with her coach for 2.5 weeks. And in 2.5 weeks, they put a game plan together. And Dave hasn't managed to do that. And how long's she been there now? How long's she been with Dave?
I don't know, a bit.
It's pretty poor. It's pretty poor. And this is coaches that just sometimes think, I can reinvent you. And quite often you can't, because sometimes the grittiness and the things that got someone into a position in the first place are the very, very things that made them successful. And then you start to just take them away completely. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Sonny Edwards and Bam Rodriguez. It's a good fight, isn't it?
It is a good fight, but I have to be completely open with you. I don't know too much about Bam Bam. I just don't. I've seen a bit of training footage of him. And I'm not going to turn around and lie and say I've studied him. So what I plan on doing, which is what Max knows me, I do this all the time, is I'm going to watch a couple more Bam Bam fights online over the next day or two before I turn around and say what I think might happen. But what I know is Sonny Edwards isn't a puncher as such. He's not the biggest flyweight in the world, because you only have to look at his physicality. And I've been watching something of him last night. Great to see those guys out there, by the way. But I've been watching him training, and he still looks a bit soft, and he just doesn't have that physique, does he? That shredded physique. So I don't think there's much growth in Sonny. But the reason I'm saying that is that I want to see a little bit more of his opponent. But Sonny's a beautiful boxer. I mean, he's got radar on the shots that come at him. He's switching, his feet are fantastic to watch. But I do have question marks about his chin. I've only seen him hit really very hard once, and he got dropped really heavily, recovered well. I do have question marks about his chin. And let me watch a couple more Bam Bam fights before I come up with a prediction, because what I don't like to do is say what everybody else is saying, come up with a prediction without studying the guys. So I'll probably tune into Bam Bam at some point this week.
John Fury, 82 grand council tax. They're after him.
That's probably one of the more bizarre stories of the year, isn't it? So someone sent me a screenshot or a link of it. It might have been today or yesterday, I forget. And I'm not sure what to say, really, because I think it was more in relation to Shane and John and not Tyson, but it wasn't really clear whose land it was, what the council tax was owed on. So I'm never going to really go into detail on such a story until I know the facts. But,
he lived in the wood anyway.
Well, clearly he's been summoned, so there's something that says you owe money and you've not paid it. But just like everybody else, you pay your tax. You pay I'm not talking about income tax. That's a different thing. You'll do that through an accountant with your earnings as a coach and other revenue streams that you've got, the book sales, etc. And it'd be the same for Shane and the same for everybody else. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too deep on this one. I don't know enough about it, but you got to pay council tax. We all pay it.
Yeah.
Costs a fortune. You got to pay it.
All right, you want to go to part 2, pal?
Yeah, by the way, I'm sure they'll pay it, and I'm sure it'll get sorted out.
Be easy.